They stood in silence for a while, watching as the dead ships fell further and further behind. The Harbinger was clearly the fastest among them by far. Something about her odd triangular sail structure gave the lightweight clipper a significant advantage. Still, of the two, it was the Indomitable that Cobiah feared most. If anyone had asked, he'd have said it was because of her mighty guns, but in truth, the ship's unexpected return had shaken him to the core. How many of his friends were enslaved in death by the foul Orion magic? Did Cephas still climb in her ruined rigging? Did Voss still blow his boatswain's whistle through rotting lips? On the deck of the Pride, the Char and human crew rushed about their work, eager to put danger behind them. Maka came to stand at the stern, staring darkly at the ocean, at the two dead ships, valiantly following them. Her hair back in its binding leather tie, Isaiah lowered her hands and slipped her fingers between his. Cobiah smiled. "Are you sure they won't catch us?" Isaiah asked at last. "They won't catch us," Cobiah turned from the great black ship in their wake, "but they'll try." After Port Stalwart burned, the Pride and her crew sailed but didn't see another dead ship for more than a week. Port Noble was now closed off to the public, only to be used as a military port, so the Pride had nowhere to dock. Maka and Asura Mesmer recommended docking in Radasum, the Asura capital, but tells Cobiah and the other officers that it would be expensive to stay there. However, once there, they could go anywhere in the world, even Divinity's Reach. In an effort to return those they saved during the siege of Port Stalwart, Maka advises Cobiah that they should commandeer the king's ship, the Salma's Grace. Maka tells the officers that the ship is full of gold that they can use for various purposes. Isaiah feels that it is wrong to steal from the king and brings up that it's tax money and that the people of Kryta will be taxed for it again when it is stolen. Hence, an Ascalonian noble gets between Cobiah and Isaiah, which earns him a punch in the mouth, and Cobiah saying, quote, "You want off this ship? Then you do what I tell you. I don't give two figs about the king of Kryta, his people, or the Asura in Radasum. I care about this ship and this crew, and while you're aboard, you're going to put them in front of any other loyalties. While you're on the Pride, you take orders and you do as you're told. If you don't like it, you can swim home." End quote. During the heist of the Salma's Grace, a few Krytan soldiers outright fled. Unexpectedly, there was a pair of Norn twins aboard the ship. When they saw the Char, they were happy for a distraction. While the fighting ensued, Cobiah even grappling with the other captain, a dead ship found them. It was the Harbinger. Moran, captain of the Salma's Grace, wants to flee, leaving the Pride to take the hit and lose her crew. Cobiah instantly says that they can take the ship on together, which Moran begrudgingly agrees, and the fighting commences. The Harbinger sunk, but the dead took to the water and made their way towards both ships. The Pride and the Salma's Grace fled the scene, Moran trying to keep the gold, but Cobiah held firm, took the gold, and sent Moran on his way. After the battle, Cobiah convinced Isaiah to take her share of the gold, saying that she can give it back to the people of Kryta if the king decides to tax them on it again. She agrees, but their moment is interrupted when Moran asks Cobiah if some of his men can stay on the Pride, since they won't be welcome home after fighting with the Char and pirates, even though it was against a dead ship. Cobiah agrees and is then delighted when Isaiah says that she will also stay aboard the Pride. In the years that followed, Lion's Arch was reborn and was now ruled by a captain's council. The ship captains paid to have a seat on the council. When a decision had to be made by the council, they called in everyone that was within a week's journey of port and would then discuss the problem. Cobiah tried to be fair, ensuring that everyone that had purchased a seat on the council could get their views heard, provided that they could make it to the meetings. As such, Lion's Arch grew into a bustling trade hub, bringing in ships from every nation, but was labeled as a pirate haven by the Krytan king. While the budding city did have some illegal trading and Krytan criminals hiding out, Lion's Arch did have laws and the council did uphold them. In a meeting of the captain's council, Cobiah and crew were set to address an issue with bringing a bank into the city. Cobiah argued that a bank wasn't needed, and the city and Claw Island needed to be built and properly fortified to protect the people that were moving into the city. Moran, who is also on the council, rightfully brings up that these plans will take money, of which they have none. That is, until an Asura named Yam walks in, sets a bag of coin on the table, and says that he wants a seat on the council. The convened captains vote, and Yam is elected, much to Cobiah's dismay, to sit on the council. After the meeting, Cobiah and Maka discuss the consequences of Yam joining the council. Since Yam is a merchant and wants to charge prices depending on ship or crew, Cobiah is worried that Yam will become greedy, jacking up prices at his shop, preventing new merchants from setting up shops, and that their new city will die in the process. Cobiah goes to Isaiah to see why she voted to allow Yam onto the council, even though her reasoning during the meeting was sound. Yam had called out Cobiah for not being a real captain anymore, as the Pride hadn't left port in 3 years, and most of her crew was working on other ships or as port security. While meeting with Isaiah, a package had been delivered for her, which Cobiah had picked up, but it was a bomb and it exploded on her ship, the Nomad, and the ship was destroyed. Luckily, Cobiah and Isaiah made it off the ship alive. However, this would kick off a search of the city to see who would set the bomb. Cobiah's first thought was Yam, as he had not hidden his dislike of the Asura merchant and had just voted against his joining the council. When they had reached Yam's shop, they found a ledger showing that the Char ship captain, Grimjaw, had recently purchased construction materials for a Char outpost, which did include incendiary supplies. Once they headed over to Grimjaw's ship, the Brutality, Isaiah and her first mate Henst provoked the Char into a fight. Maka covers Cobiah in an illusion, and Cobiah boards the ship, looking for information about the bomb. Instead, Cobiah overhears Grimjaw and his first mate talking about stealing the Pride, blowing up the Captain's Council, and then attacking Or and the undead. Once off the Brutality, Cobiah tells Maka about what he overheard, and Maka begs him to get on the Pride with their crew and just sail away. Cobiah says that they need to find out who is behind this and elects to go to the council meeting as scheduled to see who leaves with Grimjaw. As folks start leaving the meeting early, Isaiah among them, Maka presses Cobiah to leave. In her panic, Cobiah realizes the truth, that Maka set the bomb to kill Isaiah. She denies it, but then reveals that it was Henst in the hope of becoming the king of Lion's Arch. Cobiah confronts Henst in front of Isaiah, and Maka reveals the plan in its entirety, which goes a little something like this. Henst told Grimjaw to make a bomb. Maka put it on Isaiah's ship. Henst gave Yam the money to buy a ship. He would then kill Isaiah and take over her seat on the council. Maka was supposed to then convince Cobiah to leave the city, while Henst, Grimjaw, and Yam would vote against spending money on the city's defenses, so that the Krytan king could come in and declare Henst king of the city. Once Henst was king, non-humans would then all need to leave the city, giving Grimjaw the crews that he needed to attack Or. However, nothing went as planned, and then Isaiah dueled her first mate. Soon the entire Captain's Council was battling the Char of the Brutality. Cobiah and Grimjaw fought, Grimjaw stating that Cobiah doesn't fight fair, with Cobiah responding with, "I fight like a Char." Unfortunately, during the fight, Moran lost his life, and Maka escaped the city. Lion's Arch had quadrupled its size in the 20 years since it had reopened as a pirate city. Commodore Marriner strolled the streets until Commander Sikok sent someone to find him. Once reunited, the Char had news for the Commodore. The Krytan king was dead. While the king and Lion's Arch had come to an unspoken arrangement, basically staying out of one another's affairs, his death meant that one of his children might not hold up their end of the bargain any longer. Unfortunately, Prince Adair had been named the new king and wanted to take back Lion's Arch for the kingdom of Kryta. Cobiah refused to allow this to happen. Cobiah learned that Adair planned to block the port, not allowing any ships through on either side to starve the city of food and coin. Once the city couldn't survive, he planned to send in the Seraph, the Krytan military, to capture the city. When the prince arrives in Lion's Arch, he takes Cobiah onto his ship, Balthazar's Trident. Cobiah was betrayed by his wife, Isaiah, causing his capture. While captured, Cobiah listens as Isaiah pleads with the prince to let the prisoners go, since they are the only ones holding off the undead from breaching Krytan shores. Adair tells Isaiah that the threat of Or is no threat, but a ruse made up by the city to prevent the monarchy from claiming rule over the city. Livia joins the conversation and requests that Adair try to resolve the conflict without sacrificing the people of Lion's Arch. Cobiah, however, refuses to back down. Adair calls for a boy to be brought in, and Isaiah reveals that the boy is her son. After this, Livia tells Cobiah that she is aware of the Orient threat and is probably the most knowledgeable person on Or. She has tried to convince the prince of the threat, but he still does not believe her. So, she decides to liberate the prisoners and get them off the ship. Livia promises Isaiah that her son will be safe. While they are escaping, the harbor was invaded by Orient ships, led again by the Indomitable. Cobiah faces off against his old captain, who tells Cobiah that he will not evade his commission for a third time. Cobiah, Isaiah, and the rest of the prisoners make it back to Isaiah's ship, the Nomad 2, and join in on the fighting. Soon the fortress on Claw Island is shooting cannons at the undead ships. Krytans turned to fire on the Orient ships, and Cobiah saw the Pride making her way with Sycox at the wheel. Cobiah is captured by the Orients and taken to his previous ship. He escapes, jumping into the sea, and is hauled aboard the Balthazar's Trident by Adair's crew. Adair asks Cobiah to lead his crew, as he knows he is not adept enough to lead a naval battle. Cobiah does it with the stipulation that if they win, Kryta leaves Lion's Arch a free city. The prince agrees with a stipulation of his own that the captain's council must remain in power. While taking leadership, Cobiah hears Maka whispering in his ear. She has returned and is stealing the Pride for herself. However, she does it with the intention of taking out the giant maw that is ramming the ships during the fighting. In doing this, she loses her life, but she takes the maw out with her. Prince Adair stays true to his word once the battle is won. Cobiah then finds out that the boy Isaiah was protecting, her son, is also his son, and they meet for the first time. Cobiah hands his son Paula his sister's old doll, promising to tell him the story of Bibby someday. The three of them go back to the home that Cobiah built for them on Deverell Island. Commodore Cobiah Marriner passed away last week. Born 1203 AE here in Lion's Arch, he is survived by his wife Isaiah and his son Dane. Cobiah, known as Kobe to his friends and family, had a great many accomplishments in his life. He saw the rising of Or and Zaitan firsthand aboard the Indomitable, and was the only survivor when the ship fell to the undead Elder Dragon. He helped defend Port Stalwart while it was besieged by the undead, though, to be fair, he was attempting to steal the Capricorn at the time. He, alongside Krytan Captain Ash Moran, sank the first undead ship, the Harbinger. It must be noted that he was attempting to steal the King's Gold from the Salma's Grace at the time, but Moran and Cobiah worked together to sink the undead ship. Using the gold, Cobiah and the crew of the Pride re-established Lion's Arch and formed the first Captain's Council, with Cobiah taking the role as Commodore. As the city thrived, the then Prince Adair sought to reclaim the city as Krytan territory, causing the Great Krytan Blockade. When the city and blockade were attacked by the Orient ships, Cobiah led the charge, taking down the undead ships and protecting the city. After the battle, he returned to his home with Isaiah and Dane to live out the rest of his life here in the great city of Lion's Arch. The Commodore is buried on Deverell Island, where he can stay close to his family. What else can happen when the 5 races work together? Meet Arista Galkin, Logan Thackeray, Ritlock Brimstone, Snaff, Zoja, and Kaith to find out in the next episode of the Archon Chronicles. This video contains information that can be read about in the Guild Wars novels. Check out Sea of Sorrows by Ree Soesbee for more information about the rebuilding of Lion's Arch, the Great Krytan Blockade, and the life of Cobiah Marriner. You can also check out the Cobiah Marriner statue, the Moran Memorial, and the Marriner plaques around Lion's Arch and Malcor's Leap in Guild Wars 2. Thanks for watching this episode of the Archon Chronicles. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe to help with the channel and to be notified when new videos come out. Want even more Guild Wars 2 content? I stream on Twitch 4 times a week. Find me on Twitch and Instagram at AngelRider428. I'll see you in the next episode.